I measure the symbol carved into my forearm with a ruler, the wood grain rough and splintered under my thumb. My breath fogs the frost-rimed attic window, turning the sickly peach ice into swirling ghosts against the vein blue shadows pooling in the corners. The high-pitched whistling scrapes inside my molars, not from the clock, but from the fillings themselves, vibrating like a tuning fork pressed against my teeth. Each note scrapes deeper, a sound that shouldn't exist, yet it's here, scraping my dental work raw. The counter-rotating clock on the mantel pulses discordantly, its chirping mechanical heartbeat failing with each tick. I step toward it, noting how the frozen panes form a perfect circle, the frost etching sickly peach patterns on the glass. The whistling intensifies, a needle dragged across my gums, and I feel the fillings in my teeth vibrating, each vibration a tiny electric shock. The stitched cat drops a pearl necklace onto the velvet box, its fur a patchwork of mismatched colors gray, orange, black stitched together with crude, uneven threads. Its eyes are wrong, one yellow, one blue, reflecting the vein blue light. The pearls clink against the velvet as they fall, the sound sharp and brittle. I watch the necklace settle around the dried umbilical cord, the velvet box clicking shut with a soft final snicky that echoes the sound inside my head. The whistling stops abruptly, leaving a hollow silence that feels heavier than the sulfur smell. The air tastes like rotting meat and old blood thicken my throat. The cat's stitched skin pulls taut as it drops the necklace, the thread straining. I feel the cord's dry, papery texture in my mind, the way it's been wrapped around the pearls, the way the box clicks shut around it. The sulfur smell intensifies, sharp and cloying, mixing with the scent of wet cement from the attic floor. I reach for the ruler again, my fingers trembling, but the cat is gone. Only the velvet box remains, the pearls glinting dully under the vein blue light. The symbol on my forearm throbs, a dull ache beneath the skin. I press my palm against the cold glass, the frost melting under my touch, leaving a wet streak. The high-pitched whistling starts again, but this time it's inside my skull, scraping against my molars, a sound that feels like teeth grinding on bone. The cat stitching is perfect, the fur pulled tight, no gaps, no seams showing. The pearls clink again, a tiny sound in the silence, and the box clicks shut around the umbilical cord. The frost on the window forms a new pattern, sickly peach, bleeding into the vein blue shadows. I don't move. I don't breathe. The box clicks shut around the cord, the whistling stops, the frost melts into the glass. The box clicks shut, the locket's weight drags at my jacket collar, its silver chain biting into the hollow of my throat like a second windpipe. I pull it free, fingers slick with the grease of old coins and the residue of whatever it's been dragging through. The clasp is a tiny, precise thing, the kind that snaps shut with the sound of a gunshot in a tin, confimping the kind of sound that doesn't belong in an attic. Not when the only other noise is the slow, wet drag of my breath against the back of my teeth. The cat is already there, coiled in the corner where the vein blue light bleeds through the frost-rimed window panes, its stitched body a patchwork of mismatched hides, the seams glistening like fresh sutures. It watches me with that wrong-eyed stare, one yellow, one the color of old bruises, and I know, before I even reach for it, that it's not going to be easy. The first snap of the clasp is a lie. The locket doesn't want to open. I twist the catch, but the metal resists, cold and unyielding, like the hinge of a coffin. The whistling starts low in my skull, a sound that isn't wind or wire, but something sharp and thin scraping against the insides of my teeth. I grit my jaw, the fillings humming in response, and the locket finally yields with a fitting ping that cuts through the air like a blade. The cat's head snaps up, ears twitching, and I see the moment it decides. Its jaws unhinge with a sound like dry leather splitting, the stitches along its gums pulling taut as it lunges. I don't flinch, I don't breathe. I hold the locket out, the silver catching the sickly peach light, and it takes it between its teeth. Not a bite, not a tear, but a slow, deliberate foreclaiming. The metal warm against its tongue as it drags it toward the velvet box already humming in the corner. The attic smells like copper now, thick and metallic, the scent of old blood rising from the floorboards. I press my palm against the window, the frost melting under my skin, and the glass is slick and warm, like the inside of a mouth. The whistling sharpens, syncing with the locket's clasp, the sound vibrating through my bones. I reach for the shard of glass I left on the sill, the edge still sharp enough to draw blood. The cat's stitched skin peels back as it settles in front of the box, the seams glistening, the fur matted with something dark. I don't look at it. I don't want to see the way the threads pull apart when it moves. The first cut is shallow, just enough to break the skin. The blood wells up slow, the color wrong peach-tinged like the frost on the window, like the light from the box. The symbol is already there, burning in my mind, a mark I didn't make but one I recognize. I press the glass harder. and the blood runs thick, the scent of it mixing with the copper, with the sulfur that's always been here. The whistling becomes a scream, high and keening, and I feel it in my teeth, in my fillings, in the marrow of my bones. The cat's tail flicks once, twice, and the locket clinks against the velvet as it drops it in, the sound swallowed by the box's hum. The symbol takes longer than it should. The glass slips, and the cut deepens, the blood pooling in the lines of my palm like melted wax. The cat watches, unblinking, and I know it's waiting. The whistling stops. The attic is silent except for the slow, wet drag of my breath. I press the glass down again, and the symbol carves itself into my skin, the blood running like water, the frost on the window bleeding peach into the vein blue dark. The cat's stitches pull tighter, the seams groaning, and I feel the weight of the locket inside the box, the way it's already part of something larger, something that's been waiting. The last line of the symbol is a mistake. The glass slips and the cut goes too deep, the blood running fast now, the scent of it choking me. The whistling starts again, but this time it's inside my head, a sound that isn't sound at all, just a vibration, a pulse, the slow unraveling of something that shouldn't be. The cat's eyes reflect the light, wrong and endless, and I see the symbol in my palm, the blood still running, the frost still melting, the box still humming. The locket's clasped twinkings one last time, and the whistling stops, the blood stops, the frost stops. The attic is silent, the cat is gone, the box is still humming, my palm is still bleeding, the symbol is still there. I start with the teeth, small, brittle things pulled from the patchwork hide of the cat as if they were loose stones in a crumbling wall. Each one yields with a sickening fon-click-eye as I work. As I work, the sound magnified in the attic's oppressive quiet. They aren't the teeth of a single animal, not even close. Some are worn smooth with age, others chipped and stained, a few still holding the ghost of enamel. I lay them out on the floorboards, a macabre mosaic of ivory and decay, the wood groaning under my weight as I move. The jewelry comes next. A tarnished silver thimble, a single glass eye, a child's tarnished locket, all liberated from the seams of the creature's stitched body. The fabric gives way with a sound like a sigh, the seams parting, the threads unraveling, and the scent of something ancient and dry filling the air. It isn't the smell of dust or moth wings, but something more. Organic. The cat didn't simply foddy-wary these things. It held to them, pressed them into its very being as if trying to become them. Each tug at the stitches sends a shudder through the creature's form, a ripple of movement beneath the surface. The seams pull, and I see the layers beneath mismatched patches of fur, the rough texture of stretched hide, the glint of something dark and wet beneath. The air thickens, and I taste copper on my tongue, a metallic tang that coats the back of my throat. I work faster now, driven by a compulsion I don't understand. The seams come apart easier now, the stitched skin peeling back like the layers of an onion. The sound, a soft, insistent rasp, fills the attic. It's not the sound of tearing, not exactly. It's the sound of something unraveling, something coming undone. The frost on the window pane spreads, a creeping bloom of white that obscures the dying peach light. I press my palm against the glass, and the cold bites, a sharp, insistent ache. The window isn't cold anymore, it is yielding. The frost doesn't feel like ice, but something softer, something alive. I trace the outline of my hand on the glass, and the frost spreads, mirroring the shape of my fingers as if my hand is finally becoming the ice. I turn away from the window, and my reflection stops me. It isn't my face staring back, it's the cat. Its stitched jaws are open, stretched in a silent snarl, the seams around its mouth groaning. The mismatched eyes, one yellow, one the color of old bruises, bore into mine. The reflection isn't superimposed. It's side-eyed, my skin beneath the surface. The cat is wearing my face, and I am wearing something else. I reach out, my hand trembling, and touch the glass again. The frost spreads faster, engulfing my hand. My arm, the cold creeping up my sleeve. It doesn't feel like cold anymore. It feels like nothing, like the absence of feeling, like the slow erosion of everything that makes me, me. The cat's reflection smiles, a grotesque parody of my own expression. The seams around its mouth stretch wider, revealing a darkness within, a void that seems to pull at my vision. The air vibrates with a low, insistent hum, and the floorboards beneath my feet begin to tremble. The stolen teeth, the tarnished jewelry, the peeling skin, they all seem to pulse with the same rhythm, a slow, deliberate beat that syncs with the frantic hammering of my heart. I'm not sure how long I stand there, staring into the frost-etched glass, watching the cat inside my skin, feeling the cold creep through my veins. It is as if I am fading. It is as if I am becoming something else. The cat's stitched jaws open wider, and a silent scream echoes in the attic. My own reflection is gone. Only the cat remains. I raise the hammer, its weight familiar and alien at once. It is not just a tool anymore, it is an extension of my hand, my will. I bring it down on the clock with a force that surprises me. Glass shatters, gears scream, their high-pitched whine syncing perfectly with the wind outside. The attic echoes like a deep well, each strike resonating into infinity. Shards embed in my forearm, drawing vein blue blood. It is not pain I feel, but an odd sense of rightness, as if this was meant to happen all along. My heartbeat sinks with the whistling gears, the rhythm pulsing through me like a second heart. The cat watches from its corner, one yellow eye, one bruised blue, unblinking. The velvet box sits on the floorboards between us, untouched since I found it hidden behind the clock's mechanism. It pulses now, sickly peach light seeping through the fabric, casting eerie shadows that dance and flicker like dying flames. The air grows colder with each pulse, frost creeping up my arm from where the blood beads. The cat moves then, its stitched body unraveling as it drags itself towards the box. It drops something into it, a glint of bone, white against the peach velvet, and I realize what is missing from its face, its severed jawbone. The box swallows it whole with a soft thud that reverberates in my chest. The frost spreads, crawling up my arm like insects made of ice. I feel no cold, only an odd numbness, as if sensation is slowly draining away. My reflection flickers in the window pane, delayed and distorted, blue veins pulsing beneath translucent skin. The cat's gaze holds mine captive. We're bound together now, two halves of a whole that never was. The wind outside howls louder, pressing against the glass like an unseen hand, its breath fogging up the frost with each exhale. It feels hysterical, desperate even, as if it knows something I don't. Or perhaps it is just echoing what is inside me. This growing panic, this urge to smash everything into pieces. I raise the hammer again, aiming for the clock's gears one last time when a sudden thought stops me mid-swing. What happens when there is nothing left to break? The cat tilts its head as if it too is considering this question. Its gaze shifts from my reflection back to mine, and I swear its mouth moves, forming words that aren't quite audible. It's over. The attic floorboards groan beneath me, each plank slick with the sheen of peach frost, thick enough to catch the light like sugar on a wound. I kneel, my fingers trembling as I arrange the stolen pieces in a circle. The first is a silver locket, its surface etched with a face I don't recognize, the metal cold and slick beneath my touch. Next comes a ring, its band twisted like a serpent's spine, the gem a dull, watery green. Then a tooth yellowed and jagged, not human, not quite draped over the others like a curse. Each piece hums, a low, wet wethrum vibrating through the floorboards, through my bones. The whistling starts again, sharper this time, slicing through the air like a blade. It tastes like copper, like old pennies left in a glass of rainwater, and I swallow hard, my throat raw with the metallic sting. The frost spreads, not melting, not retreating. When breathing, expanding outward in jagged veins creeping across the wood like a living thing. It doesn't touch the velvet box, though. That stays untouched, pulsing at its center, the sickly peach light bleeding through the fabric like a wound. The cat watches from the shadows, its stitched body a patchwork of fur and scar tissue, its movements jerky, unnatural. It drags itself closer, leaving a trail of frost in its wake, each step a wet, fickle chi against the wood. My reflection in the window pane flickers, delayed, warped, like a signal interrupted. I blink, and the image cracks, not from the glass, from Twambime. A thin line splits my forearm, blue veins bleeding through the flesh like ink beneath water. I don't feel the pain, only the copper taste, thicker now, choking me. I press my palm to the locket, it's warmer than it should be. The metal shroom breathes, expanding under my touch, the etched face twisting into something worse, mouth stretched too wide, eyes too black, too wrong. The whistling rises, a high-pitched shriek that claws at my skull, and I press harder, my fingers sinking into the silver. The frost advances. The floorboard sweat to droplets of peach liquid beating up, rolling toward the center of the circle. The cat hisses, a sound like tearing silk, and drops another piece into the mix, a finger bone, white and smooth, the joint still flexing slightly. It wasn't there a second ago. Now it is. Now a timufisi. The reflection cracks again. This time the blue veins spread like ink in water, creeping up my arm, my neck, my face. The whistling becomes a scream, a sound that isn't sound at all. Just vibration in the air, in my teeth, in my schwimblood. I press my hands to my ears, but the noise doesn't fade. It changes. It becomes a voice, not words. A voice shape. A pressure like fingers tracing the inside of my skull. The frost reaches the circle. The locket, the ring, the tooth, the bone, they footy pulsy in unison, and the light from the box surges, peach and blue, and something worse, something that twitty burns. The cat's stitched mouth stretches wider, wider, the seams splitting, revealing rows of needle teeth. It drops another piece, a shard of mirror, fractured, reflecting nothing. The circle completes. My skin splits, not peels, not flakes, vibrates, like glass under pressure. The blue veins burst through, pulsing in time with the whistling, with the frost, with the pindy light. The pain is a distant thing, swallowed by the copper taste, by the scream in my bones. The reflection in the window is gone, replaced by something else, something hungry. The circle glows, the frost breathes, and the cat watches, its stitched body trembling, its needle teeth gleaming. The whistling stops, the light surges, and the circle fupples. I hesitate, the small blade catching the sickly peach light from the velvet box. The umbilical cord is brittle, almost dust, but it holds a thread of something once living, now a conduit for. Whatever this is, it smells faintly of iron and something else, something I can't place, like the inside of a forgotten well. I sever the cord, the snap surprisingly loud in the oppressive silence, and the scent of copper floods my nostrils, thick and metallic. My hand trembles, not from fear, but from a detached sort of curiosity. A gambler doesn't flinch at the roll of the dice, only calculates the odds. And the odds, I suspect, are irrevocably stacked against me. The cat, a grotesque tapestry of mismatched fur and exposed seams, lies motionless on the floor, its stitched eyes fixed on the cord in my hand. It doesn't blink. It hasn't blinked since I'd first found it, abandoned in the barn, a collection of parts assembled into a mockery of life. It's waiting. It always waits. I bring the cord to the cat's flank, to the point where a rib should be, where a life once pulsed. The stitched skin feels strangely yielding, not smooth, but porous, like dried sponge. I press the cord against the fabric, and the edges adhere, not with glue, not with stitching, but with something deeper, something that welds the two together. The frost continues to spread, but it's different now. Less a creeping chill, more a vibration in the floorboards, a low hum that resonates in my teeth. The peach light intensifies, bathing the attic in an unearthly glow. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of iron and something else, something akin to decay, a sweet, cloying rot that clings to the back of my throat. I can feel the wood beneath my knees beginning to sweat, droplets of peach liquid forming, coalescing, running together like blood. The cat's body begins to shift, not violently, not dramatically, but subtly, almost imperceptibly. The stitched seams pull taut, the mismatched fur aligning, the angles of its body reshaping. The cord, once brittle and dry, swells, pulsing with the same sickly peach light as the velvet box. It isn't integrating. It's becoming part of the cat. The seams groan, a wet, grinding sound like ancient gears turning. I press my hand flat against the floor, and a tremor runs through the boards, a deep well echo vibrating through my bones, through my skull. It isn't sound, not exactly. It's a feeling, a resonance, a pressure. The cat's jaws, already unnaturally wide, begin to separate further, stretching, pulling, the stitched lips straining against the seams. The sound is muted, muffled, but I can feel it, a deep, guttural flickus, as the jaws unlock, widening to reveal rows of needle teeth. Not the blunt, worn teeth of a house cat, but something sharper, more predatory. Something that could tear through flesh and bone without effort. The whistling, which had faded to a mere throb, returns, but it's no longer a high-pitched shriek. It's a deep, resonant drone, a subsonic rumble that vibrates in my chest, in my lungs. The cat's new body pulses, the peach light growing brighter, illuminating the attic with an unearthly glow. The frost doesn't spread further, but it intensifies, the jagged veins glowing with the same sickly hue. It's as if the floor itself is breathing, expanding and contracting in time with the cat's distorted heartbeat. The air crackles with static, a faint buzzing sensation on my skin. The cat's three mouths open, stretching impossibly wide, revealing a cavernous darkness within. The scent of iron is overwhelming now, almost suffocating. The deep well echo is deafening, a constant, throbbing vibration that threatens to shatter my skull. The cat watches, its stitched eyes gleaming in the peach light, and its newly formed mouths open. Ready, the chalk scrapes against the attic floor, a dry, rasping protest against the encroaching cold. I trace the final line of the circle, my hand slick with a blood that isn't entirely mine. The peach light pulses, a sickly heartbeat against the shadows clinging to the rafters. It's a grotesque mockery of warmth, this light, a perverse illumination of the horror I've wrought. Each stroke of the chalk feels like a betrayal, a further descent into something I can't comprehend, something that whispers promises of escape, of release. But delivers only This. The cat. 3 mouths now. The initial shock has worn off, replaced by a hollow resignation. Its body, a patchwork of stolen lives, shifts with each pulse of the peach light. The stitching, once crude and visible, seems to melt into the fur, becoming an integral part of its monstrous form. The high-pitched whistling, the sound that had burrowed into my skull, has morphed. It's no longer a shriek, but the sun-bleached bone texture of a forgotten song, a melody that promises oblivion. It vibrates in the floorboards, in the very marrow of my bones. My reflection in the dust-coated window flickers, a moment of clarity, a glimpse of something else. The cat's eyes. Those mismatched, stitched eyes, staring back at me, not with malice, but with a dreadful familiarity. A sense of recognition, a horrifying understanding that I am not merely an observer in this ritual, but a participant. A pawn. The guilt, a constant companion, intensifies, a lead weight in my stomach. I admit it. I did this. I brought this thing into being. It is a confession whispered into the echoing silence of the attic. The weight of the ritual presses down on me, a tangible force. It isn't just the physical exertion of drawing the circle, but a psychic burden, a crushing awareness of something ancient and vast, something that uses me, manipulates me, for reasons I cannot grasp. I feel the edges of my sanity fraying, the boundaries between observer and observed dissolving. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of something akin to decay, a cloying sweetness that coats my tongue. A taste of something lost. The cat takes a step forward, its 3 mouths opening wider, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. They aren't the teeth of a predator, but of something crafted, designed for a purpose I dread to contemplate. The peach light intensifies, bathing the attic in a suffocating glow. The floorboards groan beneath my feet, a deep, resonant rumble that vibrates through my entire being. A persistent echo, not of sound, but of something deeper, something primordial. I feel a pull, a subtle but irresistible force drawing me towards the circle. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally. A compulsion to surrender, to embrace the madness. The whispering returns, a chorus of voices just beyond the threshold of comprehension. They promise release, an end to the guilt, the fear, the relentless questioning. But I know with a certainty that chills me to the core that this is not salvation. It is absorption. My hand trembles as I raise it, not in defiance but in a gesture of surrender. The cat's eyes, my reflection's eyes, lock onto mine. A single, silent command, a recognition. And in that moment I understand, this isn't about escaping. It's about becoming. I am not Julian Schneider, private investigator. I am something else now. Something more. My reflection winks. The final tooth slipped from my palm, a chipped molar, and landed with a muted clink against the attic floorboards. Not a sound, exactly. More a dampening, as if the wood itself swallowed the impact, refusing to acknowledge the object's descent. The peach light, sickly and viscous, clung to the dust, motes dancing in the air, illuminating the grotesque tableau. The cat, or what remained of it, stood motionless, a patchwork of stolen lives, waiting. The whistling had ceased. Not faded, not diminished, simply pre-stopped. The sudden absence of the high-pitched whine left a ringing void in my ears, a hollow ache that felt more profound than the headache it had caused. It was as if a vital organ had been silenced, leaving a gaping emptiness within my skull. Silence tasted like wet cement, gritty and acrid on the back of my tongue. A dull, clinging sweetness reminiscent of overripe fruit left to rot in the sun. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. A shuddering exhale escaped my lips, and the air, thick with the scent of something akin to old pennies and something else, something like the inside of a forgotten tomb, filled my lungs. It wasn't a smell I could place. Not exactly. More a feeling of decay, a premonition of dissolution. The floorboards groaned beneath my weight, a low, resonant rumble that wasn't merely structural. It felt expectant. The cat's gaze locked onto mine. Those mismatched eyes, one a faded amber, the other a milky, opalescent white, held no malice, no hunger, only recognition. A dreadful familiarity that burrowed into my mind, twisting and distorting my perception of reality. It wasn't looking faute à nettoyer me. It was looking through me, as if I were merely a transparent shell, a vessel. My shadow, cast by the peach light, began to flicker, to waver. It wasn't a trick of the light. The shadow wasn't obeying the laws of physics. It detached from my form, stretching and contorting, becoming less defined, less solid. The cat's body seemed to respond in kind. Its patchwork fur rippled, the stitched seams blurring, the edges of its form softening. It wasn't growing larger, not physically. It was expanding, full becoming is. I tried to move, to step back, but my legs felt heavy, rooted to the floor. Not by force, but by a strange internal inertia, a sense of inevitability, a surrender. The guilt, a constant companion, intensified, a lead weight in my stomach. I admit it. I did this. I brought this thing into being. It's a confession whispered into the echoing silence of the attic, a truth I'd been avoiding for too long. The cat's body began to absorb my shadow, not engulf it, not consume it, incorporate it. The darkness flowed into its form, blending seamlessly with the patchwork fur, the stitched skin. The process wasn't violent, not in the traditional sense. It was a slow, deliberate merging, a melding of identities. The air grew colder, a localized frost blooming on the dusty window panes, a static crackle, a disruption in the atmosphere. I raised my hand, not in defiance, but in a gesture of surrender, a gesture of acceptance. I am not Julian Schneider, private investigator. I am something else now, something more. My reflection in the dust-coated window flickered, wavered, and then winked. A slow, deliberate movement, a silent acknowledgement, a confirmation. The peach light intensified, bathing the attic in a suffocating glow. It wasn't illumination, it was integration. My skin prickled, a sensation of being peeled from the inside out. The feeling of something alien taking root, spreading through my veins, replacing my blood with something cold and viscous. My bones felt brittle, hollow, as if they were slowly becoming crystal. The cat's form continued to expand, its mismatched eyes locking onto mine. A single silent command, a recognition, and in that moment I understood. This isn't about escaping, it's about becoming. The weight of it, the finality, settled on my chest like a tombstone. The cat's body, now infused with my shadow, pulsed with the same sickly peach light. It wasn't a creature anymore, it was a vessel, and I was being poured inside. In the attic, the walls seemed to rot from within, peach decay spreading like a plague across the faded wallpaper. It is not just the color that offends my eyes, it is the texture too, as if tiny maggots writhe beneath the surface, consuming what little substance remains. The air grows thick with the scent of sulfur and rotting meat, a putrid perfume that coats my tongue like wet cement. My hands are empty now, the last tooth given over to the cat, his insatiable appetite. They hang at my sides, useless appendages, as I stare at them blankly, willing them to fill once more with purpose. But they remain limp, lifeless, just like me. A metallic taste lingers in my throat, a remnant of the high-pitched whistling that has now resumed its relentless assault on my sanity. It is not a sound exactly, it is more an impression, an echo in bone that sets my teeth on edge and sends shivers down my spine. It tastes like fear, cold and bitter, coating my tongue with dread. My reflection in the dusty windowpane flickers, distorts as if something unseen claws at the glass from the other side. I turn away from the apparition, focusing instead on the sensation of frost spreading up my arm. It is not just a chill, it is an invasion. Ice crystals forming beneath my skin, replacing my blood with something cold and viscous. I watch, detached, as blue veins pulse along my forearm like rivers of liquid nitrogen. The cat stands before me, its mismatched eyes fixed on mine. There is no malice in that gaze, just a silent expectation. It knows what must come next, understands the ritual better than I ever could. Its body is a patchwork of stolen lives, stitched together with thick black threads that seem to absorb the peach light rather than reflect it. My hand moves on its own accord, tracing patterns in the dust as if reading an invisible script. It hovers over my palm for a moment before descending, carving deep furrows into my flesh. The pain is immediate and intense, but I barely register it. All my focus is consumed by that metallic taste in my throat. I count each cut aloud, my voice echoing around the attic like a distant tolling bell. 1, 2, 3. Each number feels heavy on my tongue, weighted with significance. By the time I reach 13, frost has spread up to my elbow, and my hand is numb, useless. The cat's body begins to glow with that sickly peach light again. Its stitches pulsating like veins of molten gold. It stretches out a paw towards me, claws extended. Not in aggression but invitation. I understand now, this isn't about escaping. This has never been about escape. This is about integration, about becoming something more than myself. Something other. As my reflection fades completely from the windowpane, replaced by an impossible number 13, carved deep into the glass, I feel a sudden weightlessness. As if gravity itself has lost its hold on me, pulling me instead towards that glowing paw, outstretched like a promise of release. The whistling reaches a crescendo, then stops abruptly, leaving behind only silence and echoes of metal scraping against bone. My hand, no longer my own, closes around the cat. Its paw. Its skin feels cold beneath mine, smooth as glass, hard as stone. A deep well echo resonates within me, reverberating through every cell in my body. I am not Julian Schneider anymore. I am something else now, something more. And it is done. I place the cat's stitched jaw into the velvet box. The fabric is cold, damp against my fingertips, smelling of mildew and old blood. It pulses beneath my touch, a slow, rhythmic throb like a dying heart. Vein blue light bleeds from the box's seams, not illuminating the room but 50 piercing. It casting sickly shadows that writhe across the peach-wrought walls. My reflection in the window pane is gone now, replaced by the box's glow. I feel it before I see it, the deep well echo. It starts as a vibration in my molars, travels up my jaw, then settles into my bones. A resonance that makes my teeth ache, my joints hum with the sheer severn tweetwood of silence. It tastes like copper and decay, coating my tongue as I watch the box. The cat stands motionless, its mismatched eyes fixed on the box, not on me. Its stitched body seems to absorb the peach light, leaving only the outline of its patchwork form. I can hear the faintest ticket of the echo inside my skull, a metronome counting down to something I cannot name. The sound isn't loud. It's the absence of sound made tangible, a physical pressure against my eardrums. It vibrates through the floorboards, up my legs, settling into my pelvis like a cold stone. I count the ticks in my head, 309. 2, 3. I hammer blow against my spine. The box pulses brighter. The vein blue light flares, illuminating the dried umbilical cord inside Fundit Evende. A brittle, pale thing like a fossilized worm, it doesn't glow, it sucks the light into its own desiccated core. The echo intensifies, a low thrumming that seems to come from my own bones, not the room. I feel the cold spreading up my arm again. Not frost this time, but something deeper, more insistent. It's like the echo is filling the hollows inside me, replacing blood with frozen glass. My wrist, where the cat's jaw should go, feels unnaturally warm, a stark contrast to the pervasive chill. I can smell the sulfur again, thick in my nostrils, mixed with the metallic tang of my own fear. The cat moves. Not a twitch, but a deliberate shift of its stitched body. Its head tilts, the black thread pulling taut across its jawline. It steps forward, not towards me, but temper the box's light. Its mismatched eyes lock onto my wrist, the place where the ritual must conclude. The echo deepens, becoming a physical thing, a vibration that resonates in my teeth, my skull, the very marrow of my bones. It's not a sound I hear. It's a pressure I feel Tiventidi myself, a cold water rising in my veins. I feel the box's light pull at my skin, a tingling that isn't pain, but foodie recognition. The cat's jaws snap shut around my wrist. Not hard, not sharp, smooth, cold, like glass closing over bone. The echo vibrates through the connection, a deep, resonant twivin that travels up my arm, through my shoulder, into my chest. It's not a bite. It's not a bite. It's enough integration. The pressure is absolute, final. The peach decay on the wall seems to pulse in time with the echo. I feel the cold seep into my wrist, not from the cat, but from the box, from the ritual itself. My hand, numb and useless, feels like it's dissolving. I watch the cat's jaws, close, smooth, and seamless, over my wrist. The echo in my bones becomes the only sound. The only thing left, the deep well echo. The only thing that matters now. It vibrates through every bone. It is the end. It is the beginning. It is all.